Welcome to this episode of Coffee Time Doodles. Pick up a hot drink, relax, and enjoy. Okay, today's episode is titled The Mind of a Pro Gamer. This one's for you, my fellow gamers. I'm sure that just like me, you've all met someone who's on a whole other scale of talent than everyone else when it comes to video games. I'm talking about the guy who plays Quake 2 and lives on quad rock hills all day, ending up with a score 10 times higher than the second place. Okay, bad reference. Most of you are probably born after my friend was getting these quad rock kills. But just imagine that friend owning at Halo, Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, or even League of Legends. Some kids are extremely dominant in video games and I want to talk a little about them. I've been wanting to do this topic for a while, but first I had to make my previous video called Talent is Overrated, because I wanted to dig into the topic of talent before discussing about pro gamers. So in the previous episode, I went in detail to explain what talent is and where it comes from. In summary, talent is 99% hard work. Intelligence and genes have very little impact on performance in comparison with training really hard and smart, especially from a very young age. Suddenly, at the light of this information, a lot of connections are being made in my mind. Things are starting to make sense. Let's talk about my own experience for a bit. I was always pretty good at video games. I started noticing it during my teenage years. Among my friends, I would always be the unbeaten kid at fighting games like Soul Calibur, Marvel vs. Capcom, etc. They thought I was practicing a lot. I was not practicing these games more than them. But looking back from a different angle, I had practiced a lot more than them in the past when growing up playing those reflex games like Mega Man and Ninja Gaiden on the NES console. I had already years of hard practice under my belt, which probably made a big difference when taking on new games. Maybe I just knew how to improve fast with them. This would explain why it seemed easier for me to get good at these games and overwhelm my friends at them. Let's take a look at how I came to be a gamer. I was born in the 80s. I became a gamer when it was still highly frowned upon. It wasn't very cool back then to be a nerd. I was probably part of the first generation of gamers who spent a lot of time playing games on the NES, also known as the Nintendo Entertainment System, the 8-bit console. And later on we moved to the Super Nintendo era with the Sega Genesis and Sonic. I played a lot of hard games from a very young age. So it makes sense now after reading the book Talent is Overrated by Jeffrey Colvin why I was better than my friends at video games. Then later on, with the internet reaching everybody's home, I became able to play competitive games with people around the world, or at least at that time people on the same server. I started to face other people that were very talented at the games. I would start getting my ass whooped, so much that I started feeling like I was just barely more skilled than the average gamer. There were a lot of insanely good players out there who would be on a whole other league than everyone. I always thought to myself back then, what makes these guys different? And what do they have in common? 5 years ago, I was modding for a Twitch streamer who was a League of Legends pro. He was playing in the highest rank, which means that he was among the top 0.03% of the whole League of Legends gamer base. That was so interesting to me, to see how a pro gamer like this approaches learning and practicing. Some people would think that pro gamers are mostly only great at one game, the one that they practice a lot, and that they would be pretty bad at the other games. But that's not true at all. A lot of gaming experience translates very well into other types of games. And the second thing is that they fully understand how to practice efficiently. They practice smart, which, as explained in Jeffrey Colvin's book, is the key to achieving success or high performance. At one point, this League of Legends pro that I was following decided to take a break from the game and started playing CSGO competitively, also known as Counter-Strike. He was an absolute beginner at the game, but it was absolutely intriguing to observe his thought process as he was analyzing everything and preparing his practice routine. The two things that caught my attention the most is how perfectly smart and efficiently he was practicing and how fast he was improving. When he finally started the game, he destroyed the first few ranks of the ladder like it was nothing, like he was much more experienced at the games than any other players in those ranks. The truth is that a lot of the gamers in these first few ranks have been playing for years already. In fact, the large majority of the player base are living in these lower ranks. But we know now that this is simply because they keep playing in their comfort zone and rarely have the ambition to research and learn how to efficiently practice in order to improve. Pro gamers know how to improve fast. Before even spending time playing Counter-Strike, they will be queuing up YouTube videos from CSGO pro players explaining everything to know about each guns, what they are good for, and how to use them well. They will watch videos about all the best tactics for winning and all of the little tricks to know about the maps that they play in. Before even starting the game, they're already learning what a pro should know. So as soon as they start, they already have a huge advantage over everyone else. They already have the knowledge of players in much higher ranks. Then they just need to practice, and they already know what to practice. Like I talked about in my previous video, you can't really teach yourself how to efficiently practice if you're not a pro at your field. You need to learn from the masters. Only a master should know what you should practice. So in this case, advanced tutorials are very important, because they are made by advanced players. So yes, what makes a talented gamer talented is likely to be gaming a lot from a very young age, but also having the knowledge of how to improve at something, and the will to do it. The will is the part that most people don't have. For a lot of people, it may seem like a waste of time to practice really hard at a game, but it makes sense because for a lot of people, gaming is just something they do for fun, to relieve stress from their everyday life. So not everybody has a reason to justify spending so much time on a game to become a pro. And not everyone wants to practice what they are not good at because it's not necessarily fun. Like we talked about in the previous video, deliberate practice is extremely hard, painful, and rarely fun. You have to have a mindset of motivating yourself by looking ahead at the future improvements and how it could benefit you, for example. So watching this streamer get incredibly good insanely fast was mind-blowing. And I noticed that most of these top-level gamers have these similarities that clearly distinguish them from the rest. They simply practice smart all of the time, practice what they are not good at, and learn from the best people what to practice. It seems that the benefits of becoming a pro gamer are better than before. A lot of gamers are making a living off of competing professionally or simply entertaining their audience on live streaming platforms like Twitch.tv. It might feel a lot more worth it for today's kids to have the will and ambition to go through that painful, deliberate practice. Especially knowing that talent has very little to do with anything but years of hard practice. We saw through the world of competitive chess that over time, the rising standards for skills make the new grandmasters far greater than any grandmaster of the previous generations. This translates perfectly to today's competitive online games, especially with the abundant availability of the knowledge on the internet for learning. I'm telling you, in 10 years, these young players will absolutely crush the professional world in any competitive games. They will learn earlier, better, and faster, making them many times better than this generation of pro players. If you know just a little bit about esports for RTS games like StarCraft, Warcraft 3, StarCraft 2, and now MOBAs like League of Legends, you know that the South Koreans are the gamers that we fear the most and that are the most consistently dominating in the competitive gaming field. This is because the gaming culture over there has been huge for a very long time already. Gaming tournaments are broadcasted on television with large prizes available. Korean kids are being molded into the competitive gaming mindset very early. In fact, the video game culture is so predominant in South Korea that the government invests in campaigns and support groups to minimize the problem of video game addiction that is widely spread in the country. Since 2011, they even have a law that prevents gamers under 16 years old from gaming from 10 PM to 6 AM. Yeah, we feel the pain for our Korean gamer brethren. Curfews are frustrating. Anyways, I thought I'd share my interest on this topic. If you have a story to tell about observing a pro gamer friend of yours and his ascension to greatness, please share it in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. If you'd like me to discuss about a particular topic in a future video, please let me know of your idea in the comments also. If you're interested in joining my live streams, I stream every day of the week on my Twitch channel. Here's the link. Thank you so much for watching and see you next week.